Everybody, and welcome to the Payments Leaders Show. I'm your host today, Adrian Evans, and this is where I have a fireside chat with hand-picked leaders from the payments industry. They share how they lead their people, how they create winning and human-centered cultures that lead with embracing the opportunities before they actually look at the challenges. Now, one of the greatest challenges I've observed in the payments industry is how do you build a culture when you're trying to scale a business which is enables people to realize their potential, but naturally realizing the growth targets of the organization. Now, one of the most accomplished people I've seen firsthand is Anand Patel. Anand, a warm welcome, sir.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
Pleasure, pleasure. Now, Anand's typically brought into an organization and a company to accelerate a hockey stick of revenue growth. And he always does this by creating a high performance culture, but one that's a lot of fun as well. Okay. Now, he's not only one of the most commercially minded people I know, he's also has the uncanny knack of just simply knowing everybody in the industry and seemingly to be able to connect seemingly competitive people together, get them to align towards a goal. He's a stellar relationship builder and thoroughly decent human being. A declaration, Anand is a long-standing client and close friend of mine. And so, super guest, Anand, welcome back. You're the first person to appear twice on the Payments Leader Show. My question for you to start with, will you be going for the hat trick now?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Adrian, for the glowing intro, and also thank you for having me on for the second time. But I've got to make a special mention before I go any further, and this is really important to me. And I'm specifically directing what I'm going to say now to a gentleman called Keith Douglas, right? Keith Douglas, remember the name, everyone. That I am your first repeat podcast guest. And the data doesn't lie, Keith. So I just want to make you clear that the data doesn't lie, and the hat trick will be on. I'm very confident of it. But looking forward to having fun with this podcast, but also catching up with yourself, Keith, and other people as we go through everything we do together.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So, obviously, welcome to the show, and I really appreciate you taking the time out. I know what's been a very busy schedule of yours, but I wonder if you could share, the exciting news that you have on your new role at Monavate.
Yeah, I'd love to. First of all, thank you so much. Well, I joined Monavate at the beginning of September 2023. So a few months into the journey, I joined as the president of supply chain payments. And really, there's a lot of things that made me join. And there's a lot of things that excited me about this. You started talking a little bit around people and other things. So I'll start with the people side first, which is my core decision to join them was really rooted and based on my first-hand experience as one of their valued customers. And throughout that journey of being a valued customer of theirs over the last 18, 20 months, what I noticed and witnessed was an exceptional culture, a culture where people felt safe to make mistakes, and we all make mistakes. I saw an exceptional culture where everyone was pulling in the same direction as one team, but having fun on the journey. Now, I always say that about those things. So when the opportunity arose to join Monavate and to join Monavate in where I feel I can add the biggest value, which is launching a new line of business around supply chain payments, it felt really good because they have the same desire and want that I have, which is to literally drive simplicity and clarity to B2B payments. And they have a little bit more about Monavate is it felt like the right fit for that. What else can I say about Monavate? Well, Monavate are like an expert payment solution provider. They help innovative, ambitious businesses navigate really complex networks and relationships using the technology and issue card programs and financial products. There's about 40 people, so it's a nimble, small organization. In their 3 years, only 3 years of existence, they've issued more than 4 million cards, 80 million transactions, got over £2 billion of volume, and in 32 countries, or they cover 32 countries, and they're only 3 years old. So they're a scaling point juice, and I feel that this is where the growth and the hockey stick you talk about when you got the right people there. So I'm excited, been there for a couple of months, and loving every moment of it.
Brilliant, brilliant. So in terms of joining the organization, obviously culture was vital, but you're now president of supply chain payments. what specifically does that area mean?
Okay, great. Okay, so I'll talk a bit about B2B. So let me actually take it a little bit slightly differently, the way I'd probably try to position it to you, which is so a lot of innovation has happened within the payments industry. And what I mean by that is people have sized the payments industry as $175 trillion big globally and growing. It's huge. But what we've seen is a significant amount of innovation within the consumer side of that. The best example I'll give is about embedded finance, right? Embedded finance, which I know is dear to your heart. What opportunities have happened? Well, embedded finance is actually quite an important aspect. And the best example I'll give is the introduction of Uber or the rideshare apps that happen. And pre any of these rideshare apps, it was very difficult there was payments were driven with a lot of friction. So the best example I'll give is we had to hail cabs on the street, or you phoned up to get a taxi, or you had to do things and you rang around and then they said, sorry, I can't pick you up at this time. I can pick you up at this time, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you get into their taxi and what happens? Oh, sorry, I only take cash. And you're already in the taxi on a journey, and actually multiply that by 100, right? And by 100, I mean, you're in a different country. The same things happen. There's language issues, there's everything else. And all of a sudden you need Turkish lira to pay the taxi driver, or you're not getting out. So you're stopping at an ATM, you're getting money out. There's FX, there's all these other charges you get. There's everything. There's so much friction, and friction is cost in this industry. So what Uber did is they ultimately made the payment as one of their many deliverables invisible. So right now I click the app and I get a taxi and it drops me off somewhere. I get out of the car and then I get a receipt. And not one moment of that journey did I have to make a payment. Not one moment of that journey did I have to do anything around there. It's invisible, and it happens in scale. Now that's great, and that's what happens. So the embedded finance element's amazing. But what I'd like to also say there is we've sized the industry at $175 trillion. $50 trillion is consumer-related payments. So that leaves $125 trillion of B2B related payments. And if I was to say that most innovation that's happened within fintech and payments has been for the consumer, it tells you there is a significant amount of road to go on when it comes to B2B payments, because B2B payments are far more complex, far more global in nature because of how we are more one world and how we work. And there is definitely significant amount of friction in that process. So I see that there's a huge opportunity within the whole payment industry, especially B2B, and hence why the Monavate journey and the supply chain payments piece comes to mind, which is some people got to make payments, and to drive out inefficiency, to drive invisibility. I know people hate to say you don't want to be invisible, you want people to know who you are. Well, when you do your Uber payment, you don't think twice about walking out the taxi and going into a restaurant or a hotel or where you're going to. The receipt arrives, and then that's when you have things. So supply chain payments is all about helping customers who are businesses, in my case, make their payments and make it as efficient and effective and seamless and invisible as possible. That drives up value.
Brilliant. No, it's so true, because again, it's only this time last year, I was sharing with you yesterday, that I got into a cab in a different country and exactly that happened. And I was like lost. And he was like, oh, I only take cash, so we're going to need to go over here. I had to do foreign exchange. And when I worked out how much that costs me, and then compare that with being in the Middle East recently, jumped a queue of 60 with the family. And suddenly we're in, and next thing you know, we're back in our hotel, family are really happy. But you see in the business to business, the sheer size of that, 125 trillion, that's just a huge opportunity for anybody associated in our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Adrian, I'll give you other examples as well. And this is a purely business example. I went to go see the CFO of a global travel company. And it was in Italy. So we went, and I sat in his office and I was telling him about what we're going to go do and what we're doing and why we're doing it. He picks the phone up. He speaks in Italian. Next thing you know, someone walks into his office. And in his office, this young lady brought a big binder of what it was eventually statements from credit cards. And basically, that she sits there, as does a team of about 10, 15 other people, highlighting to reconcile and saying, oh, we've got a mistake here. Or what's the FX rate? What's all these things happening? So they're basically complete manual processes that have human interaction, which obviously human interaction has a potential of risk because of human error. And those things are so prevalent. So when you said that story about jumping a queue, getting in a taxi, going, you didn't think twice about the payment. You didn't think, actually didn't even think about the payment. And it happened. And that's what I think I'd love to get to. The dream and the vision is, how do I make it seamless, that there's no human hands touching it and creating friction and risk? How do I drive it all out?
Sure, sure. And to me as well, somebody, obviously, I'm a big fan of AI, but I'm much more a bigger fan of HI and what humans are capable of. But that's getting the machine to do the work they can do well.
Yeah.
Repetitive, obvious
Exactly.
pattern, just heavy lifting work. So us humans
Yeah.
can do the better work. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And 100% agree with you. And like I say, there's $125 trillion of efficiency we should be driving for, right? And it's huge for the payments industry in general.
Brilliant, brilliant. So look, I've noticed and observed that in over the decade that I've known you, is that you you enter life and people with an abundant mindset. You consistently do that. Yeah. So I was really keen to understand why you do that, but also, are there any downsides to doing that as well?
Oh gosh. Oh, great question. Well, first of all, very kind of you to say about my abundant mindset. Um, but let me start with where, and we'll come on to this a little bit later on. But what I'm going to say next is what's my mission and what's my purpose in life. And the reason I'm saying that is because you drove me to think like that, right? We'll talk about that a little bit later on. I want to make sure that comes across. But my mission in life is to positively impact thousands of people in and out of work, right? And my purpose is to use my leadership and relationship skills, which I think I'm good at, to enable, empower, inspire others to freely express their talents in a psychologically safe workplace and make everybody happy. And I get that my whole element of abundant mindset is I really want to help others because I get so much joy from it.
Yeah.
And it's learned behavior. So I will say I was exposed to this as a child with my dad, who helped others, and that's really, really, really like my barometer is actually is learned behavior. Um, but there's also the continuous learning element. I read a book. It's called The Infinite Games by Simon Sinek,
Yeah, yeah, great.
and it has basically two sides of the story. It's basically your infinite mindset versus your finite mindset people. And the finite mindset people are thinking, if I give you something, will you give me, what am I going to get in return from that individual person? And that's really a binary type of thinking as well. They've not done anything for me, so why should I help them? But the infinite mindset is about receiving the joy from giving, not actually saying, will I ever get anything back from that person? It's actually the joy of giving. So when I introduce friends, as you mentioned at the top of the show, who are seemingly competitors, it's because I truly want them to connect as individuals. And I felt really great for some of these things that we do, from CEO of Barclaycard to presidents of MasterCard, connecting people who have needs and bring it. And I get so much joy from it. And I love it. I just love it. And I think there is, I think I've said this on your previous podcast. Michelle says I'm nosy, but I think I'm curious. And the curiosity and the curiosity gets me because I really do care about people. I want to I want to help as many people as I can. So having that infinite mindset is important. Now you asked the question about downsides. I've helped a lot of finite mindset people.
Yes,
right.
yes.
I truly have. Right. And they all care. They care about purely taking. And gosh, what sort of world do I want to live in if that's what I am? But I'm not. So what you do is you eventually realize that there are takers in the world and then there are givers in the world, and you smile and wave and you look forward. Don't look back. What's the reason of looking back? You waste your energy. You're wasting your time. Look forward. Help whoever you can, because ultimately that's the receiving that happens from it. So yeah, I've learned the hard way, Adrian. I think you and I both have learned the hard way, and I know this is fact for both of us. But look forward, right? Let it be a learning episode and nothing more than that.
Amazing, amazing. I'm smiling here because I can just relate to so much of what you're saying, but also I love your smile, wave, look forward. That's my takeaway from this already. Thank you. That's amazing.
Right.
Wonderful. Now, I've been fortunate enough to partner with you on initially recruiting when we first started working together, and then ultimately then had the privilege of being in some of your team building elements, etc., and building the culture. So you take a deeply human approach to building a team to start with, managing a team, and then ultimately getting high performance out of a team. Can you share more why that's so people centric? Because ultimately you are trying to achieve big tasks, difficult tasks, break new ground.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, 100%, Adrian. I mean, I think you said it in your comment, and I will say this: this is one of the golden rules I learned from you very early in our partnership. Was it's all about people. I mean, it's not a B2B; it truly is a H to H. So even though I'm saying supply chain payments is about B2B, it's not. Humans buy from humans, and humans sell to humans, and humans talk to humans, and that truly is. It's all about people. So I've always had that belief and said that actually, you know what? If you have and surround yourself with great individuals who have the ability to differentiate and bring a diverse way of looking at problems, thinking about things, but everyone acts and behaves as one team, you're unstoppable, right? It truly is unstoppable. And I'm going to use this for the benefit of everyone. I am a huge Leicester City fan, and I have been a season ticket at Leicester City for more than 30 years. And in 2015, 2016, Leicester City won the league against all odds, 5,000 to 1, the odds were. And they were a team of total value and cost was about 15 million pounds, which
Wow.
in that year, 2015, 2016, the average Premiership Chelsea team of the world were probably worth $500 million. And this 11 players and the people that came off the bench worked together as a team, knew their role, knew how to do things, knew what they were good at, bad at, and worked on making sure that they were really good at what they were good at, try to minimize what they were bad at and let other people help each other. And they worked together and we won the league, Adrian. And I look at Claudio Ranieri, I look at Jamie Vardy's, I look at the whole Wes Morgan's, I look at the team and say,
Yeah.
that's what true team is. And that's where you could be successful, because you don't need to be a set of superstars to do it. You need to be a team, and a team will always be a set of superstars because they don't work together. So having that infinite mindset, again, people thinking, what can I do for someone else? How can I help them? All right, they're not good at defending, so let me actually help. Let me do other things on that as well. So it's about surrounding yourself with that. I also think it's about empowering people to know that actually it's there, and actually also as well, people make mistakes, right? People will have issues. We lost only a few games that year, and a couple of players would blame themselves for it, and they quickly were picked back up by others. So that was important. The other thing that you've taught me, which I think is extremely important, everybody talks about cultural fit. And I think it's not about cultural fit, it's about cultural growth. How can anybody in joining your team enhance your culture, right? You want to be surrounding yourself and getting culture growers in your team that make it stronger, because everybody brings a different perspective to it. And, that's important. Psychological safety was always something you and I have always spoke about. Bring psychological safety. Trust is key. When someone trusts that they can actually make a difference, that they can actually work in a safe place that is going to help them, is awesome. And then I guess there's a couple of last bits about yourself, right? Which is, it's very important to be yourself. And I am always myself in every meeting. And
I can confirm
Adrian,
that.
yeah. And Adrian, I don't know how to be serious sometimes. I mean, for the odd regulator meeting with the Dutch and also with the FCA, of course, I'm extremely biting my lip. But in most meetings, it's not my style. So I bring my authentic self to everything.
Yeah.
Because that's the only person. Everybody else is taken, right? As they say. I bring that. But Adrian, I'm going to have to say this as well. Live and breathe your behaviors. Lead from the front, be you, and actually everything else will follow. Give them that platform to do that. So when you talk about my human approach, it truly is because actually I want to have fun on the journey, right? Going back to my purpose. I want to be happy, right? Well, what's what life is not to be happy.
Yeah. Amazing. Just smiling here a lot because I just just witnessed that so often. Can we just probe on a couple of those areas there? So first of all, psychological safety, but also diversity. What does psychological safety mean to you?
Okay, great question. I think psychological safety first means many things, that people feel physically safe and emotionally safe
Yeah,
to be at work and do work. I also think psychological safety is about inclusion. And inclusion in many ways, right? From socioeconomic backgrounds to sexuality to everything
yeah.
else that goes with it. And I've said this before, that with yourself, which is diversity is a stat, inclusion is the act. That's truly what it is. Diversity is a set of numbers. So what it means for me is I want everybody to come and enjoy work and feel that they're safe to take a chance, take a thoughtful risk, to be able to do things. But at the same time, to be able to celebrate success, to be able to push back, to be able to work in a place where actually they don't see it and feel it to be work. They feel it to be a part of something. They want to own something. They actually feel that they're making a difference. And I think that psychological safety is there. And, a couple of people have fed back that they've never felt as safe to be working with a team, that because of the way that people are acting in our team, is that everyone's got a voice. But I'll go to the point as well, is I live my values. So if I see any injustice or any wrongs, I'll call them out. And not only will I call them out, I'll actually take action and if that action means I have to do something and I have to move away from things, I will do, right? And I think that's important to actually show I live and breathe my own value set. So people like authentic people. People like being trusted. People like having the respect and the autonomy and the empowerment. Those are important.
Brilliant. Can I get really deep on business here now? Because too often I feel at the moment people go, these are nice things to have. Yeah, it'd be nice. It's inclusion and diversity, all really good, strong business. Yeah. Whereas I've observed and noticed that actually, when you remove the stress, when you remove the fear, actually 1 + 1 = 28.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Agreed.
when you're not thinking, oh, how's my line manager going to respond to this? What about my team, etc.? We get in flow. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you on that. I think what people do is they focus too much on the numbers, and then they start having knee-jerk reactions. What they need to focus on is what's the strategy, how they're going to get there, who they're going to get there with, right? So it's a bit like, there is strategies that people just go out there and say, just go buy, go sell, sell, sell. And that's a strategy to failure. We've seen that happen. Again, reading many other books, and I read recently the Steve Bartlett book of Diary of a CEO.
Okay.
And he talks about how people are thinking about the results. Let's go get another win, go get another win, go get another win. And don't think about the process. Don't think about taking people on the journey. And actually, you're 100% right. You can definitely have 1 + 1 = 2 without a shadow of a doubt. But 1 + 1 = 2 can be definitely a multiplier, actually even more, when you actually empower people and grow. I'm going back to the Leicester City example. 11, 15 million pound valued, 11 players on the pitch, 15 million, but they came out and they did the unthinkable. They did the unstoppable. The art of the possible was delivered, right? And of course, I got to live the dream. But that is because we're going back and saying it's about team. It's not about throwing money at things. Look at today's environment. There is so much money being thrown in football, but results are not getting there, right? So, so going back to that your comment of if people work together, if people feel empowered, if they're psychologically safe, the art of the possible and the potential is huge.
Yeah, it's funny. I never forget when we were on an offsite and you used the Leicester City example. It's still going strong. And you just said there's more chance of Elvis walking through that back door.
Yeah.
And I also remember you did something amazing was you'd received a slide which said, we need to hit these are the numbers we need to hit. This is the culture we need to create. And there was this tiny little triangle on people. And I never forget, you just turned it upside down and just said, we look after the people. They're the right people here. We give them we get the right culture, because behavior drives culture and culture drives results. The numbers will take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And I remember you also saying to me about, this has got to be fun. This has got to be fun.
Yeah, definitely. I love it. That's the only way. I think results through people. It's a human business. Everything is.
Amazing. And it's interesting what you say there as well about, in the payments, we're in a regulated industry.
Yeah.
And too many people get too close to the regulators, get too close. And you're like, I do say, as a number of people within the industry say, not all pounds are equal in the payments industry.
Yeah.
And I think that because we get too close to that, and actually that's going to cause us problem, we won't get licenses in places. So I think it's really important to remember the context of the industry, but we can still have a lot of fun in the place as well.
Agreed. 100%
Yes.
agree. Yeah.
So look, we've worked together for over a decade now, this October.
Yeah.
And because we first met in October 2013. Yeah. In that time, our partnership and friendship has flourished. I wonder if you could share what impact that has had on your career and life, because I always knew with your growth mindset that you were gonna flourish in that time. But I'd love you to share your perspective.
Sure, sure. I mean, first of all, Adrian, 10 years, wow. I mean, I
Yeah.
haven't aged. I mean, I really haven't aged. By absence of comment, we'll leave that for someone else to decide. But
Oh dear, really, really, okay.
but yeah, but gosh, where do I actually start? I mean, Adrian, the first thing I'll say is before you and I started a partnership, I was very erratic in my approach. So when a shiny object was over here and it says, "Hey, why don't you go apply for this job over here?" There was no rhyme or reasons on the way I was
Okay.
doing things. I always thought success was actually a title. I always believed that is what would make me happy.
Okay.
I always thought that that is actually the pinnacle of everything we need to do. So when we first started working together, the very first few things you did is you grounded me, right? You grounded me and you said, focus and energy has to be directed, right? And you did an amazing job of helping me do that from the start. And I mean that by the sense of like my energy and my focus. And we start off with what's important to me. You always said, okay, so what is important? What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to do? And we start with values, right? You start with your values. My number one value is family, right? Adrian, everything I do and everything I do in my life is for Michelle, Alicia, Aaron, and now Rosie, of course, the dog. But then other values that I find very important to me are team, unity, having fun, winning, trust, empowerment, creating psychological safety. You know, these things are so key to me. So you grounded me, you made me think about those things, and we always came back and centered ourselves back to, okay, does this fit your own personal value set? So I've got to say that just those nuggets of information at the beginning gets you thinking, because actually in the 10 years, we've had so much fun on the journey. We've had so much happiness and laughter, and it feels like fulfillment, right? It truly feels like fulfillment because of the way we're grounded. What you're so good at, Adrian, and the partnership and why it's been so successful is, you know, I'm a visual person. You know, I like stories. You know, that's the reason why I read the Simon Sinek books, the Steve Bartlett books, you know, all of these leadership coaches, you know, because the way that they apply stories to it, if it's to do with the military, if it's to do with actual, you know, car companies, manufacturers, I like the stories because it drives things. You knew that very early on. So you were driving and helping me get to understanding whys through storytelling. And I loved it. So I say that's definitely been really, really, really important to me. But even bigger than that is that was only the start of the journey. Then the journey accelerated and took off. And by taking off, I mean you gave me personal belief of my own capabilities and my potential, right? You told me there's more, and you always pushed me, right? You pushed me because you knew what was important to me. So you knew what made me happy, right? You also knew what my potential was, and you didn't let me stop. And that I cannot thank you enough. And if I was to say, how's this partnership helped? Commercially, it's helped. Financially, it's helped way beyond anything I could have ever imagined. Uh, my belief in helping others, right? Going back to the whole infinite mindset and getting value and loving to do that. Utilizing my best skills, I believe, about relationship and human to human types of things. And it's happy. And so that multiplier effect is actually now helping others and others and others who actually, I hope, is benefiting from me being a better person because of how you've helped. And I want to say something. You're right. We started up as a partnership, but this isn't a partnership anymore. This is friendship, right? I want to finish on that note around this section. This is pure friendship. This is life friendship. And that's important to me as well.
Well, thank you. I don't know quite what to say, but I can only echo what you just said, which is I think the trust and the respect we have for each other, I think is significant and deep, and I would echo that completely with our mutual friendship there. I do think I would just say as well, I think all partnerships are two-way. Responded so deeply and with such a growth mindset to embracing those things, even at the beginning when he was like, are you sure this is where we're going? He was like, trust, let's psychological safety. We had psychological safety say, we're going to do this together, we're going to get the other side. But if I could just note one thing, if that's okay, the one thing I really admire is many things, but one thing I really admire is when you help others. And there's a particular time I remember when a couple of years ago you said, unfortunately, I had to make a reorganization, and you said, right, I'm going to help all of these people. The butterfly effect globally of helping every one of those people is staggering. Now, and I think that's good. And going back to some of your dad's talks about, like, I need to do good to sleep well at night.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to just mention that, because that's had a dramatic multiplying effect on many people. So well done for bringing that to the world.
Thank you. Thank you.
So moving back to payments, there's lots of predictions in the world, etc., and where we're going to be by 2030, and all sorts of things are happening, and there's great innovation. I wonder if we could just ground that again, if that's okay.
Sure.
Where do you see the payments industry headed over the next 18 months? By sort of the early part of 2025, where do you see the payments industry then?
Okay, great, fantastic. Well, before I answer that, or as I answer that question, I'm going to say that I will focus on B2B payments in where I think payments are going to go. Going back to the $125 trillion to solve versus the 50,
right?
And I'm only doing it because of just focus to finish, right? So it would be remiss of me not to link where I think innovation is going to go with the business I'm actually currently in. So the first thing I'll say is cross-border payments, right? They are going to be more streamlined. They're going to be more cost-effective. They're going to utilize more global payment networks, and fintech innovation will thrive. So what I expect over the next 18 or so months will be companies that are focusing on technology to help B2B businesses and fintechs become more effective, more efficient, more seamless, are going to thrive and do really, really well. That's one element. Linked to that, which of course is very obvious, is digital transformation. So many B2B payment processes are manual. So many. They're going to transition from paper-based to digital payment methods, and that is right into our sweet spot. The third thing that's going to happen is payments are going to get faster. Right? Faster, real-time to near real-time payments. B2B have been driving for that and thriving for that. And I remember people making payments and like, oh, I'm going to wire you some money. And it takes 2 days for the money to land because it's coming from the US somewhere else. And you're refreshing the screen. That is going to get faster and faster with the introduction of so many of those faster payment types models around the world. There is something about blockchain and cryptocurrency, which I do think will be very important. I think the security elements of those and the transparency, I think it's actually going to be big because it's going to be extremely efficient in cross-border payments for sure. You mentioned regulation. So I want to make sure I mention regulation. Governments are driving for increased transparency, and they want to reduce money laundering, right? Money laundering is a big problem that they're worried about. And I think regulatory changes will come that actually really enhance the transparency and the payments that come with it. And therefore, that's what I think what we're trying to achieve at Monavate adds and helps to the transparency of making all those things happen. Two final points. I want to mention integrations, right? There are so many technology and payment partners in one ecosystem, right? That people and businesses have to run. So people are going to look to try and see if there's one route to get as many of those as possible. So I see B2B payments in API integrations to be seamless and very straightforward. And the final thing I'm going to end up on is I believe there's a massive drive, rightfully so, to sustainability and ESG. And I actually, without a shadow of a doubt, businesses are going to seek to align their whole payment processes with sustainability goals. And therefore, they want to work with only partners who are actually thinking of the same way, to make it more efficient, more effective, cheaper, and driving pain out of the global world we live in.
Amazing.
That's a long list. But that's where my head's going for the next 18 months.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think the thing is, there's so much happening, and it's sort of where's it going to be harnessed to solve the most immediate problems. So thank you for sharing that. There's so much insight there. This is the stage where I normally try and just provide some just sort of summary insight, but I've got 2 pages of notes here. So I wonder if I could just sort of share some of the insights, the most prominent ones that have come from our conversation.
Sure, I'd love that.
Yeah, so first of all, obviously, in terms of the opportunity, though, of why you've joined Monavate, not just because the opportunity in the industry, but because of culture. You've experienced that in terms of partnering with them and very, very safely aligned, and also you're going to have some fun along a very good journey. And
Yeah.
let's not forget what they've already achieved. You know, dramatically in 32 countries, many people start single currency, etc. And 4 million cars. I wasn't aware of that, and a billion worth of a transaction there. Just in terms of the opportunities, though, embedded finance, it's so easy to forget what that's like when you don't have it, because we have it so much today. But truly staggering the size of the business to business opportunities and the inefficiencies in B2B that actually really can drive things forward. Obviously, love the work about your purpose and actually, you being able to for others to empower others to bring the very best of themselves to work. They're going to do better work and try and fulfill that to the next level. But also the infinite game. I love the fact that that's why you approach that. But I think what was really stood out for me, it's really elegant, was the way you don't expect others to have an infinite game as well. The fact that others, if you come with a finite game, there's no malice, there's no friction added to that. It's like, okay, I'll smile away, but I'll move on. I'll move on, and we'll just keep on developing.
Yeah.
Coming back to building teams, and obviously this is an area that I know you very well for, and why so many people want to work for you and with you. But creating that psychological safety, physically and mentally, it's vital.
Mm.
And actually, I love the fact as well, this is a human-human connection rather than just a business to business. I knew you were going to mention Leicester. It's funny, I was only talking to my son yesterday, Matthew, about Leicester. And I said, I was talking about how loyal you are, been a 30 years, and the fact it goes up and down, and you're top of the championship at the moment. But actually, the exciting thing about what a team together like that can do as one team, and also with a collective, and also seemingly crazy odds that the rest of us
Yeah.
don't think are going to happen. Um, I think then, obviously, in terms of our partnership, I think that was very kind of the area you described there. But I think the most important part of the impact is, yes, it's been commercial, and yes, it's been, but also I've just seen you show up as you,
Mm.
and but actually showing up as you is not just good enough. It actually is an expander and actually develop things forward. But one on this is, for me, is the multiplying effect you've had on many people throughout the globe. Never stop doing that, because we need that. We need that in the world. We need hope in the world. So never stop doing that. And then finally, the part about where do we think payments is going to be? Well, there was a huge list there, from cross-border payments to digital transformation at the same time, creating faster real-time payments. But interesting what you said. We hear a lot of this sort of fear about what about security. I
Yeah.
think definitely regulators and governments don't know how to solve that on their own, and it's typical of the payments ecosystem, where we're likely to solve that as an ecosystem, not just as one body. But also, increasingly, it's going to need to be aligned to sustainability to
Yeah.
make that for the future. So they're my takeaways, which are many. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, or as a final comment?
I mean, no, Adrian, but you did miss out to remind Keith that I was the first second timer.
I
I
was
mean,
thinking
you
before.
didn't put that in my summary, but ultimately, it's been an absolute joy and pleasure having this conversation with you, reflecting on our extremely strong 10-year plus relationship that's gone from partnership to friendship, and and long may it actually grow and thrive even further for all of us.
I couldn't echo that anymore. And I'm really excited for where you're going to take your team and Monavate. And obviously, anybody who wants to know more about that, obviously get in touch with you.
Yeah.
And we'll be sharing this on LinkedIn. But I can't thank you enough.
Great. Thank you very much, Adrian.
Thank you.